Okay. So immersive technologies, really all they are, it's a way to imitate or extend our physical world via some kind of digital simulation that gives us this sense of immersion. So you're completely absorbed into something. So you're starting to see, ways to explore physical locations, lots of marketing and advertising, healthcare, education, art, gaming, they're all using immersive technologies in some way. So it's an exciting technology that's been around for a very long time, really, but it's starting to gain more traction, especially since we're all working at home. So the extended reality part, so that X is a variable that can stand for anything. I'm always thinking like 15 years in the future, what's that X going to stand for? Anyway, but right now it includes 360-degree imagery. And there's a concept called 3DOF, which is 3 degrees of freedom. So if you're wearing like a Google Cardboard and you're using your phone, then your surroundings kind of move with your head movement. So that's 3 degrees of freedom. And then you've got virtual reality, which is 6 degrees of freedom, or 6 DOF. So you can actually be in a space and walk around and move around and pick up objects and that sort of thing. And then you've got augmented reality, mixed reality. You can do 3D scanning. We've got spatial computing, which is pretty much the same thing as mixed reality. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But anyway, this extended reality is the full spectrum of immersive technology. I really think that XR really does have the potential to bring people, places, and experiences closer together than ever before, which is why it's so important right now. What I really think is cool is with spatial computing and mixed reality, programming, it really does follow the rules of gravity in space. So we're starting to see immersive learning environments, but they're our whole room. So my computer interface is now my house, or whatever I choose it to be. So again, I already mentioned this, we're starting to see these technologies in a ton of different industries, art, education, real estate, medicine, all those other ones listed. So just a couple things to look at here, and I'm not going to read all this to you, but when is XR expected to be mainstream? I think the one I'm looking at is the 29%. That's the one I kind of fit in that category, that 1 to 3 years. And the reason why I say that is because this slide came out before, but there was a leak recently where it was talking about Apple and how they have Apple Glass coming out. And I don't know if you remember Google Glass. Google Glass is from, I don't know, 10 years ago, it seems. It was a while back. That was ahead of its time, where you wear like just glasses and you walk around and you've got an augmented display over your reality. And so now that Apple is getting into the picture, within the next year or two, their glasses are supposed to be amazing. So if you have time, I didn't make a slide for it, but if you have a second, do a Google search for Apple Glass and you'll see some amazing things around coming up over the bend here. But on this slide, you can actually see that medical is huge. They're using a lot of this XR technology in their industry. And of course, gaming and movies and fun entertainment type stuff is big too. So the question is, can extended realities improve learning? And the answer is a huge yes. So here's just 2 reports that are worth reading. If you get a chance, go to library.educause.edu. And these are great. They just give you tons of examples that different universities are doing in this space. But I start thinking of how blended learning is really now going to truly become blended learning once learning environments are designed for this type of technology. So imagine, being able to create any kind of learning space, and we're going to hopefully experiment with this later today, to be able to bring any kind of interface into that room. Or we could interact with 3D objects that may be invisible to the human eye. So now we can bring in something that you might be able to see in a textbook, a 2-dimensional, thumbnail image of something, but now we're able to bring in an invisible atom, for example, and maybe fly through it and see all the different parts. You would never be able to do that before. Or to enter into a cave that we're not allowed to go into. Now with 3D scanning and LiDAR technologies and all this, we can enter the unenterable or see the invisible. So anyway, there's a lot of that kind of stuff in these reports. I really enjoy Pen Immersive. This is a public research project that's exploring the potential of all this stuff. I really like where it says supporting the production, availability, and preservation of knowledge in its many manifestations. And it's essential, this is a library by the way, essential that library staff directly engage in the knowledge creation lifecycle. And I think that's a huge role for what people are in learning resources should be doing, if not now, but in the future. So if you have time again, that's another really great report to look at. But it's something that we're going to be seeing a lot of. And then finally, EDUCAUSE, their 2019 Horizon report should be coming out soon, I think. But you can see the time to adoption is 2 to 3 years, and the relevance for teaching, learning, or creative inquiry is highlighted there. So if you're not reading these reports, I highly recommend reading these reports. They're eye-opening. So virtual reality is basically a computer tricking your brain into believing that you're in a different environment. So it's a simulation. So I already talked about that 6 degrees of freedom. So that kind of tracking offers this whole room VR experience. So now you can have more freedom to explore locations and interact with people and with objects. And I've been doing a lot of that lately from work since I've been working from home, and it's been really a nice experience because it feels like I'm actually with people. So this is a little video, and I forget what's even in this, but so here's just some video. So here's a VR advertisement. So I actually did this inside virtual reality. So it was a talk that I was doing on virtual reality, but I was actually in virtual reality. So here's a 3D scan of my son that I actually was able to import into VR. So there's a lot you can do with the background. So I could have this as a classroom. Here's an artist painting inside VR, but I'm actually also inside virtual reality watching this person paint. So one of these days, if you ever want to try this, we have a few setups at the Seminole campus, and the Clearwater campus has some VR setups as well. So there's that. Then there's also, this is Roomy, and we're interacting with Google Poly 3D objects. So I can bring in anything. I'm working with this other person who is also interacting with the 3D object. An interesting concept of different ways to research inside VR. So you can find different relationships between content this way. Instead of reading it in one article after another, you're seeing it more visually. Here's the Roomy room again. So I'm actually showing off my physical space, and I'm letting people that are inside VR see what I'm seeing. So there's people down at the bottom that are in VR, but they're seeing me look out my window. So they can actually see the physical space inside the virtual space. And then here's what it would look like on a mobile device. So you could, so later on, if you want, I'll give you an invitation, and we can interact in this space that you're seeing now. But if you don't have a VR headset, not a big deal. You can be on your computer, you can be on your phone, and that sort of thing. We'll talk a little bit more about volumetric video, but this is, all these people are looking at this video, which is real, it's lifelike. So imagine, you know, capturing that kind of footage. And then here's photogrammetry. So we can now walk through this type of space in VR, and it looks like you're actually there. So for education, I mean, the opportunities are endless. There's a lot we can do with this. So if we can't travel, which we can't, but even if we needed to travel to the streets of Japan, and maybe we're studying a novel, then what's better than to be actually there? And then here's Spatial. This is an app that I've been testing. They just released it recently, but this is in my office, and we're actually interacting with augmented reality. This is just stuff floating around my office. So there's a 3D scan. And this is actually an early version of this software. It's this is probably 6 or 7 months ago because it's still in my office. But this technology is just amazing now. I'm going to skip over this, but you can see some of the Hey guys, it's me. Am I back? Hopefully, can somebody?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so I was kicked out, but hopefully, I think I was kicked out just on this slide, correct? Whoops, let me make sure it's shared again. All right, so are we able to see the screen with the kid with the mask on?
Yes,
Yep,
we can.
we're all good.
And that's all you see? Okay, good. All right, hopefully I don't get kicked out again. Anyway, so all I want to bring about this is, so what we've done is we've cataloged our virtual reality apps. So a student can come in and do a search for Pearl Harbor, find books on Pearl Harbor, they can find articles on Pearl Harbor, they can find the movie about Pearl Harbor or a documentary, but they can also see that we actually have a virtual reality experience for that. So it's not better than the book, it's not better than the article, but it's a way to enhance what this student's actually learning. So we do a lot with the American history classes, and with Shelby's in here too, so she does a lot with this kind of stuff too in the innovation lab. I just love this picture only because this student came in and he was blind in one eye, and he really wanted to try virtual reality, but he didn't think it was going to work. So he tried it anyway. And he said when he put it on, it increased his peripheral vision to his functioning eye. And so it kind of enhanced his vision. And so he was able to paint in 3D, which was just really just kind of cool for him to be able to experience that. And I think that smile says it all. So this was a conference. So I already mentioned speaking inside VR about VR. And so I'm the guy in the middle. So I was in New York City in a hotel. So their Wi-Fi actually worked. And then I was presenting to this group that was actually in Tampa. But there was people from all over the world that were actually in the virtual space. Just so you know, there's somebody in the waiting room. Should I let him in or? Anyway, so it was cool. So there was people from all over the world that were actually in VR, but then there was people physically there that were just hearing the talk through the computer. They were able to see what in 2 dimensions what was going on, but there was also people interacting in VR space, which was really neat. So this is what I'm going to demonstrate later. So we're all using Zoom, right? We're all in 2 dimensions. So the video shows my son, who's really bored, but you can see that he's on his phone. I'm in Zoom, but I'm actually in VR. So I'm going to pick up a coronavirus thing and I'm going to show it to him, and he's, again, not very thrilled. But so I'm in this VR space, so I can actually bring in 3D objects. I can have multiple screens up, and it's all in 3D. So again, this is something I'm going to try later, like right at the end, and just see how it works, where I can actually be in Zoom, but I'll be in VR, and I'll be in 3D space. We've been doing quite a few co-spaces workshops, or at least we were when we were physically there. And we work with adults, but a lot of kids are really drawn to this type of technology. So they can go in and create their own VR experience. And then you can see the kid on the right holding a merge cube. And up at the top, you can see that that's actually becomes some kind of a hologram that he's holding. And so he can program a game, or he can program all 6 sides of that cube to do whatever he wants. So it's a really cool way for them to actually create something in VR instead of just consuming something in VR. So once they've created it, we can then go out and test it on one of the headsets. And CoSpaces AR is also, you can create something in VR, but then extend it to your reality. So here's a picture. I thought this was a video, but actually, let's see if this is going to work. So here's the video of this AR world. So this is actually in my hotel room. And so this is all the stuff that's going on. So you'll see in a minute that this is just overlaid my physical space. So there's the hotel room. So there's all that stuff. So kids can actually create this in VR. We could see it completely simulated, or we can also put it into our physical space. So what we were planning on doing, there was a couple libraries that wanted to create cardboard box rooms. And then kids would be able to crawl into this little space, but they would have their own environment that they created in there. It's a different way to storytell. We did a veterans reality program. So this is through the Imagine Museum. They invited veterans to come in and tell their story of service. But then they had another part. So they recorded their oral histories. And then they went into VR. They used tilt brush, and they made sculptures. And then we exported the sculptures out of VR and printed it, 3D printed it for them. And you can see at the bottom that their sculptures are on display. Really great project. So my intern, Nate, designed, we had to do a proof of concept because the museum was like, oh, this is what we want to do. They had no idea how involved it actually was. So we were able to go in and design something in tilt brush. And then you can see on the right that we actually 3D printed the piece that was designed inside virtual reality. So that's a pretty cool way, especially if you're like a humanities professor or an art professor and you want to teach 3D design. Well, you can do that in a 3D space instead of using a 2D screen to design something in 3D. You could actually do it in 3D and then have it come to life, or not to life, but have it become a reality in physical space. Some 360 is another part of extended realities. So I know with Shelby's classes and her English classes, she's had students borrow the 360 camera and go out and take 360 photos and then actually annotate those photos. So here's an example of the lab. This is an old picture, but as I'm scrolling around, this is a 360. So I could view this in VR if I wanted to. Then I could select what this is. Now, if it was in VR, I would just look at that information, that I tag there, and it would pop up the info that we need, right? So I can then see there's more info. So students can go in and do a 360 of a space. They can even add portals. So if I wanted to click that door, I could go out into a different space. I can add audio to this, so I can narrate this 360 space. There's a lot that you can actually do with this type of technology. We've done some 3D 360 for virtual reality promo videos. I was lucky enough to work with a videographer who went to Johns Hopkins to their simulation center, and we were able to record a simulation in 360 degrees so we could actually view it in 3D, or excuse me, in VR. So if you're ever interested in trying that, the links are there. And by the way, I will give you the link to this presentation later, so you have all this stuff. And if at any time you want to try it or you want to learn more, just don't hesitate to get a hold of me. Oh, what's cool too is you can actually shoot 360-degree video, but then you can actually go into Adobe Premiere, wear your headset, and edit it in 360 degrees. So that's a little bit more realistic to what it's going to look like when it's done being edited. So that's kind of a cool thing. So I work with a lot of kids too. So here's on the left a group of, I think, 80 sixth graders, and this is at the downtown center. And we did a 360. So this is my first like overview. So I did a 360 shot here, a photo. We can do videos too. And then we broke all these kids into like 4 or 5 different groups. And then we went into co-spaces and actually added VR content. So you can see the kid down there taking a nap. There's a little rat there hanging out with him. Dinosaur dancing. That clock is not real. Obviously the astronaut's not real. And then we also did a 3D scan, and then we were able to display it onto our merge cube, which is a physical cube that we're holding, but now we can move around and hold. So by the way, that merge cube is really neat, especially when you capture scans of like architectural or dinosaur bones or that sort of thing. You can really hold that stuff in your hand. Lots of stuff on 3D scanning. So you can see we've got some, I work with kids, I've already mentioned that, but we've got some kids down there learning photogrammetry and actual 3D scanning and that sort of thing. And there's the dinosaur bones that we're scanning. And of course that project was put on the back burner too, but I love working with kids in this particular realm because they don't get this kind of thing at school. And so they're learning a skill that they might be able to use down the road. And we also have a VR AR club. And so they're scanning, this kid is actually scanning his sister, and then we were able to clone her and put her in AR space. We were able to make her very small and put her next to a water bottle. And then you can also put her in VR and interact that way too. I love this. So I did a presentation recently with a gentleman from the University of Oklahoma, and what they're doing, and I'd love to see St. Pete College do this, but they have all these 3D models of whatever it is. I mean, it could be fossils, it could be whatever you can think of, whatever you can see physically and you can scan, you can do this. So what they're doing is they have their library system so people can search for 3D models, and then they can push them directly into the VR station at the library, or they can actually push them right into their courses, and they're using Canvas. I don't know if my courses would do that, but I would think it would. I think that'd be really cool where we could do 3D scans and then be able to push that stuff right into your courses. So lately, Google has been putting out 3D objects. So you can do a search in Google on your phone and have a turtle or an octopus or a panda bear actually life-size in your room, which is great. I took it a step further though. I was curious. So you can see over here on the left that this is a pretend student research paper, right? And they're scrolling down and it's obviously not print. You could do this in print, by the way. But anyway, I'm reading through this article, and instead of a 2D thumbnail image, I have an actual embedded 3D object. So it could be any 3D object. So I'm moving it around in the browser. Well, now I can select it and say, you know what? I want to view this in my space. So imagine if a student was presenting this to a class, something on 3D. Now they can bring this into the classroom or through video, whatever. And then students if they have their phones or some kind of a classroom tablet, can now walk around this 3D object and resize it and see it the way it's supposed to be seen. Now, there's nothing wrong with reading about it in 2 dimensions, but learning about something that's in 3D, that's actually in 3D, is more meaningful. And I think you're going to remember that experience more than you would reading it in a book. Now, this is something I'm super excited about. Before I hit play, I just want to explain it a little bit. So a while back, I had this idea of like, imagine if you could just be inside virtual reality, but like scan certain parts of your room. Like you can do that very easily. With certain headsets that have cameras on the front, you can just look around and it scans and it meshes your environment. So why can't you can bring that in. So this guy has it set to where he can cut and paste physical surroundings and paste it right in. So imagine research papers. So a student that's out there writing about this plant can scan it with his or her phone, and just drag it into the paper. And then, or PowerPoint, they're working on PowerPoint, Photoshop, GIMP, I hope Canva, Canva. So this is really cool. Now, obviously, we'll have to look at, how do we cite, according to APA or MLA style, how are we citing this 3D object that's actually not published anywhere, and it's just this physical thing that's maybe in my room. So that'll be interesting. I've got a little bit of time, I think, to figure out how to cite this stuff. But anyway, this is something I think is really cool. And I just reached out to the developer to get beta access to this, because originally he put all the code there at the bottom. So if any of you are coders and you want to work with me on trying to get it figured out before it becomes beta, let me know, because it would be fun to kind of get this to work. But I can see so much potential with something like this. Anyway, okay. So we already talked about going into places that we might not have immediate access to. So laser scanning, I'm not going to watch this whole video, but they're scanning this complete cathedral so that you can actually walk inside it, like a photorealism tour of it. So I know when Notre Dame was on fire, I had some students that were curious and they wanted to kind of get a better view of it. So we actually went to Paris, thanks to Google Earth VR, and we were able to fly around Notre Dame and see what it looks like without it being on fire. And then this is a 360 VR documentary that actually brought tears to my eyes a few times. So this is obviously after it burned. Luckily, they have some really great 3D scans of this thing, so they can repair it to the millimeter. But this documentary was gorgeous, and you're actually inside Notre Dame, and you can see, this video doesn't do it justice because it's not in 360, but when you're watching it in VR, you can look all around the cathedral, and it's a breathtaking experience. So again, a place we can't go. Here we go. This is what brought tears to my eyes, is this scene right here. Again, it's not doing it justice on this two-dimensional screen, but the music accompanied with the rubble and the holes in the ceiling and all that were just, again, breathtaking. Google just did a photorealistic tour of Versailles, and gorgeous stuff. Now you can do like multi-users, and multiple people can walk around in this space now, even though it's VR. So I can be walking around Versailles, and somebody from Texas that's an expert in this type of history or whatever, or different art, can lead me through this. And so we can actually take these tours and not physically be there. Now, of course, I would much rather walk through this hall, physically, gather the smells and the sounds of what's going on. But if I can't, then this is the next best thing. Some of the other things we've done with this extended reality stuff is the Lipa Ratner Museum had an exhibit for Marty Balin, which was the founder of Jefferson Airplane. And so Christine actually wanted to bring some of the albums to life. So she had a display of the music of 1969, which was a great year for music. And so we figured out, well, let's get some old iPads and we'll find some good videos that when somebody takes the record off the shelf and they put it behind that iPad, a video jumps off the record. People were pretty blown away by this. They were just like, oh my God, how is a video jumping off this physical record? So it was a really cool way to kind of get people engaged with more than just the record itself. And what I love about this is I came in like right before the opening and shot that picture on the left, and then I shared it, but then Jefferson Airplane actually shared that post too. And the last time I checked, there's like 3 million fans or something. So I thought that was really cool that somebody as big as Jefferson Airplane shared a little photo, something that the small iLab was doing. So I think that's really cool. We've got a structure sensor, which is just a little sensor that you can put on an iPad, and it does all kinds of 3D scanning. You can use a Microsoft Kinect too. Those are cheap. Here's a project that we did. So I've mentioned before, I work with students in American history classes. And so usually we 3D print something that's related to history. Well, this girl came in, her group came in, and they wanted to do a life mask, but they did not want to put all the plaster and stuff on their face. So she was like, is there any way we can do this with technology? And I said, absolutely. So we took that scanner. I had the girls do it themselves. So they scanned her face. We then put it in software. You can see the thing at the lower left. and we were able to kind of clean it up a little bit and you know, just make it the face, and then we 3D printed it, and that was the first time we ever did something like that, and I think it turned out really well. So I'm looking forward to doing more projects like this when we actually do make it back to school. I already mentioned the whole room scale scanning. So if I'm wearing a headset and it's got camera lenses on the outside, I can look around my room and it will mesh it out like that. And then on the bottom, you can see that it actually creates a 3D representation of that space. So you can do this with a lot of, you can just imagine the potential with education here. Same thing, I did a scan of my office and I was able to use a tape measure virtually and measure how big that wall is. And it's very accurate. You can scan your space, and if you're using a certain software, it'll then create a CAD file for you based off of the 3D scan that you've got. And then I just downloaded Matterport because I've got that 360 camera. So you can connect the app to your camera and then do beautiful things like this. So check this out. So here's the South Huntington Public Library in New York. I was there in January, I think. Anyway, so they've got a 360 tour, so I can move around and see this, but they also have the dollhouse view, which is kind of cool. You can see all the different floors. So this is a 3D scan of, you can zoom in. I can look at the floor plan this way and kind of see it this way. And there's different ways to measure things. I can view it in VR if I want to. I can click on this. And if I have any of these things, I can view them then in VR. So a really cool way to share your space and to interact in that space.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Someone asked, what path would a student take if they wanted to have a career in a field related to extended realities, at SPC specifically?
That's a great question. Oh, at SPC, I mean, I would be, you know, get into the computer, you know, CCIT program, and just kind of look at, because they've offer some, like, I would definitely take the 3D, like the Maya classes. I don't know if we offer Blender classes, but I would definitely get into learning 3D design first, because if you can learn the 3D design part, all the you know, the foundation of that, then I think you're off to a great start. Because there's so many apps out there that the overlaying information is not that hard, but you know, like, I'm not really great at the 3D design part of it. So for me, that's all it is. And even with like stuff like 3D printing, if you want to get into that, that in and of itself is simple. It's the design that's really difficult. So I think learning 3D design is step one. Get really good at that. And then you'll understand how light reflects off things. So when you actually bring 3D into either an augmented reality space or a virtual reality space, it's going to make sense. It's going to look real. You know what I mean? I hope that answers your question. But I would start with 3D design, stuff like Maya or Blender, and start from there.
And then if a student is maybe getting their AA at SPC and then transferring out, what types of degree programs would they be looking for at the bachelor level to get into this field?
At bachelor level, you know, I'd have to look that up to be sure. I don't really know off the top of my head. I mean, like, there's like digital arts majors that, you know, you could get a digital arts degree, but like focus on extended realities or virtual reality. So if you want, connect with me, whoever's asking the question. I'll give you my contact info, because I've actually got industry contacts too that might better know how to lead you in that direction, in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, I would do like a digital arts track type of thing, and then just keep working in the XR side.
Yeah, and then we have a comment from Shelby from the
Mhm.
communications department. I could say that the tech writing class offers some chances to write about projects related to any of this. So it's not
Yeah,
a full course of study, but it's a good start.
that's a great start because then you're going to learn more about the theory of all this stuff and how it can be adapted and how it can be utilized in this field. Yeah, definitely. But I'll give you my contact. Get in touch with me. Like I said, I've got a lot of connections. In fact, I'm doing I'm doing two, I call them VRNRs. So it's like a webinar, but it's all in VR. And I'm doing one in early June for the Synapse Summit again. And there's two VR and AR experts that I'm kind of interviewing in that space. I don't know if that's free though, but I'll see if I can get some student like scholarships in there. Um, and then we're doing another one the next day after that. I don't know the exact dates right now, but that's a good way to get connected with people that are actually doing this kind of stuff too. So I'll give you my contact and we'll keep in touch for sure. Good questions. Um, are there any other questions or can I?
That's it right now.
Okay. I've already talked a little bit about this, how we're using spatial computing and we're using our actual interface to which is now our computer interface. But what's neat is they actually do combine computer vision and artificial intelligence. So if you're looking at augmented reality, like Pokemon Go, for example, those little objects don't really know you're there. However, with spatial computing and mixed reality, those little digital objects have a little bit of computer vision that can sense that you're looking at them. And now they've got some AI built into them where they can walk around and move around different objects and that kind of thing. So it's starting to get really sophisticated. I'm going to fast forward this real quick. So now we're looking at spatial computing slash mixed reality. So this was pretty cool. So here on the left is an anatomy app, and I'm wearing a HoloLens headset, and I'm actually looking at this cadaver, very large in the boardroom. And I can, as I look through it, you can see it's identifying different parts of the human body. I can then walk through it and it dissolves, and now I'm looking at the bone, not the the muscle and all that stuff. I can go in and I can, if I wanted to, I could then turn on the neurological side and all this stuff and see. And so that's what the view is in 3D. And then this is my iPad and I'm connecting to the same app, but there's two students that are in the room with different headsets on, and they're studying for their anatomy and physiology class, their test. And so you can see they're able to go in and they're both looking at the same 3D object in the room, but they're wearing different headsets. So they're in the same room, but you can also do this kind of thing where you have a virtual room, and they can be in different states, different countries or whatever, and they can still interact with this 3D object. I mentioned spatial. This is something I've been testing for a long time now, almost a year, and it's amazing. For me, it's the killer app. So if you want to try this, we can test this too. You don't have to have a headset or anything. You can be on your computer, but you can still see what it looks like. So here's just a quick example of how spatial works. And so there's a hologram, and then there's a guy physically there. And let me fast forward this a little bit. They've got all these different objects in here. They can add virtual notes to it. He's going to do a search, voice search, bring in all this content. And then, and by the way, this is what it looks like when you're in there. It's amazing. And it works on virtual reality and augmented reality, a variety of headsets. It works on mobile now. It's just incredible.
We
Tons.
do have one question that came in
Sure.
from Dawn. Do you have a lot of space to do mixed reality in VR? I was thinking about getting a mixed reality set, but I don't know if I have enough space.
Well, if you're doing like VR, I have it in my living room, and you should probably have at least 6 by 6 foot space. I mean, obviously, the bigger the better. Um, but yeah, what are you thinking of getting?
Dawn, you're welcome to unmute too if you want to talk directly.
I was thinking about getting a I think I saw the Samsung it was a Windows mixed reality.
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I only have like not even like 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet of space here.
I mean, you can still use it in that space. Like you can sit down and just use your headset and just have like a virtual kind of a space, you know. And what's nice about these headsets, you can bring them anywhere, you know. So
Oh, so they don't have to be at my computer?
no. You can like yeah, you can. They don't have to be tethered to your computer, and most of them aren't because most of them are like like the Oculus Quest, which is VR. That's completely in its own device. It's on your head, and that's it. Um, and then like the Magic Leap and all those other things, they're computers essentially that you're wearing on your head. So, but yeah, you don't have to be tethered to your computer, and it remembers the spaces you visited. So if you go to the library and you use one of their one of their rooms and you turn your headset on in there and it meshes out that room, it remembers that location and it'll remember the next time you go back there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So speaking of that though, I wanted to show you another part of this spatial thing. Again, if any of you want to test this, let me know. I can get you on the SPC early access beta testing site. So all these guys are in my office, right? And we're interacting with all these objects and all this information. And again, this is in my office, which is cool. But the one I want to show you is over here, actually on the right. So this again is in my office. That's Aaron. He's like the project lead, but he brings in this phone store, Sprint. And he brings it in, and it's actually in my office now. Now they're bringing it smaller so we can bring it down and actually see it as like a dollhouse view. But what's cool, and I remember asking him, like, so can I actually create any kind of space now and then just bring it in? And he's like, oh yeah, you know. So you can see now that this is just a Sprint store, but I can make it be a hospital or a surgery room or something like that, where we can all look at the different parts and that sort of thing. So now that I've been testing this at home, just the other day, I had about 20 different people that were in my physical space. They weren't really there. They were holograms, but it felt like they were there, and they were from all over the world. And it was awesome. It was really awesome. And we just sit there and talk. We can, it can detect your eye movements, and it's like you're there. And you can see that the avatars actually look real. They're not, cartoon looking. So again, this is, I think, one of the most killer apps right now. So moving along here, just a couple other things. I think this is neat that these glasses here, they're building in sensors that now detect temperature. So obviously with COVID-19, when we get into this kind of extended reality, and like especially when you start to see more glasses and not these big headsets, people can walk around with these sensors and actually detect now who's got a fever or not. Now, obviously there are some privacy issues, I would imagine, but this is kind of the world we live in, right? So speaking of these glasses, so there's the Nreal. These are just been released. Like I said, Apple has their glass coming out later or next year. So now with these glasses, they're tethered to our phone, right? Which makes sense. Most of us have our phones with us. And with 5G on the horizon and these really powerful chipsets, these XR chipsets, we're going to really see this ubiquitous computing. So smart cities are going to really become smart. So pretty soon, not too far away, I'll be able to be on a street in downtown St. Petersburg. I can call a meeting with a colleague in France and say, hey, I want to show you something real quick. I can then put my glasses on, and then we're both meeting, but he's in France and I'm in downtown St. Petersburg. And then I can use my phone and just throw some 3D scans of things I've been working on right there and meet whenever it's convenient. So we don't matter. We're location agnostic now, and we're device agnostic. It doesn't matter what we're wearing and whatever. So this is exciting for me, that we're going to be able to do this like very soon. And actually that spatial company I was telling you about, they've already tested spatial on these Nreal glasses on a 5G network, and they're like, it's just blazingly fast and mind-blowing. So I'm really excited. So just imagine, I'm going to pause this video. Just imagine, so when there's a technology called pass-through. So when you're on a quest, which is VR, you create a boundary. It's called a guardian. And so when you're inside that guardian, you're in virtual reality. But if you walk beyond that line, that boundary, you're now in what's called pass-through, right? So now you can see your actual reality. So it's not going to be too far away where we're going to start blending VR and AR, which is used to be sci-fi, but it's not anymore. So you'll be able to be in virtual reality and explore your world, and then go down to Street View, and then hit a little AR mode toggle, and then now you're going to be walking the streets of France again, and interacting with people that have those XR goggles on, or XR glasses. That's here, and it's going to be amazing. Oh, why didn't I embed that video? Anyway, check this out. This is again, if you think about it with education, this is pretty neat. So this is, let me fast forward it here. So these people are in different spaces, and they're both working on this drone. So he's in one space, and then the guy he's working with is in another space. Where'd it go? Anyway. Now they're just talking. So yeah, so you can see they're actually interacting with this drone, and they're piecing it together from remote locations. So collaboration is going to be huge. And I could have sworn I embedded all these videos. So anyway, here is Magic Leap's digital avatar. Obviously it's the girl on the left, but there's so much AI built in, facial recognition, eye movement, eye tracking, all of this stuff. She hasn't been released yet. Her name is Mika. But you know, this is our future, right? Terrifying, but also pretty cool at the same time. So we've already seen like holographic concerts and stuff, but this is going to be like a digital assistant. Like imagine Alexa, but like this. So when you're not wearing a big headset like she's wearing, you're going to have just your prescription glasses on, and if they have a little lens, an AR lens over top of them, or an XR lens where it converts to VR too, we can be interacting with things like this. She just drags this into this screen, and it's there. So kind of mind-blowing stuff. I'm going to skip over this. So for those of you who want to learn how to develop this kind of thing, AR Kit for iOS for your Apple stuff is one thing to look at. I messed around a little bit with Connect, Microsoft Connects. They don't sell them anymore, but you can buy them on eBay for like $25, $30, and you can do all kinds of VR tracking and learn kind of how the technology works. Godot Engine does VR and AR support. So that's a software, that's like Blender that you can download. Blender, by the way, is also open source and free, and that's got VR and AR stuff built in too. But Godot Engine, Unity, Blender, those types of things. We also have web VR. So a lot of the stuff I've been kind of playing with is all through the web. So we've got like Firefox has a new browser, and so does Chrome, where it displays virtual reality stuff. So you can just kind of put your headset on and move in to that space. So they're back in the day, they had like a cubed browser that had content above your head, content. It was like a cube. Like it wasn't just this one picture here that you see, this one screen. It was cubed, so there was stuff in all dimensions. So with VR, it's going to be just like that. And then A-Frame, you can build some VR experiences in here too. So if you're interested in this stuff, definitely look at aframe.io. You can actually build stuff that's actually kind of already there. So it's a framework, and I've done a few things in here. So let's see what this one is. So this is what this would look like if you went in and started the visual inspector. You can kind of see, this one's weird, but you can get a better idea of how VR is actually created. But this is all in the browser, right? You can add your own content and stuff to it. The one thing that I built was here through Glitch. Hopefully it doesn't take forever. So here's the thing that I built in Glitch. And so if you want to see it, you just click on show, and then I can do it in a new window. This is actually better, by the way, when you do this in on a phone. Come on, there we go. So this is the browser view of it. But since I'm on a browser, there's no view in my space, at least yet. I'm sure that'll happen down the road. Oh, by the way, the new iPad. Let me find that real quick. The new iPad coming out. Anyway, has a LiDAR sensor on it. iPad LiDAR, which I'm excited about. Has a LiDAR scanner on it, so we can do high-end depth scanning with the iPad. Anyway, I don't know where the link, oh, here it is. This is what it's going to look like. But doing all kinds of like volumetric kind of scanning. I'm excited for that too. All right. With AR, you can do a lot with accessibility too. Spatial or positioning sound effects. You know, if you're getting ready to bump into something, it might pop up and say, hey, you know, you're getting too close to this. You can move objects around, or you can, like it says here, avoid space conflicts. You can be, if you need to read a sign that needs to be enlarged, you can use your screen. And I've seen a lot of partially blind people that actually have their phones and they're using them as devices that help them see better, or enhance their sight a little bit. You can kind of use AR this way as well. Or if you go to a, you know, if you're in Italy and you can't read a menu or something, you can use AR, which it'll use its computer vision, like Google will do it, and it'll automatically translate that Italian menu into English on the fly. Did you hear Alexa? She just answered me. Anyway, that's weird. So this is, I think, imagine this in higher ed. So being able to be in a classroom, talking about tornadoes in this example, but to see this type of information pop up. They're actually talking about how they want to start doing volumetric video, because right now he's standing in front of a green screen, right? But pretty soon it's going to be volumetric, and he's going to be able to like actually walk around in that space. So this is an interesting way, I think, to convey information, and in this case, how important it is to get inside or get protected during a hurricane or a tornado. So there's a car now in his space, and it looks like it's really there. To us, it's not, but it looks like it, and it really kind of tells us a pretty intense story. And then another part of all this is light field imagery. So this is happening now, but pretty soon we're going to start to see this photorealism inside VR. So the one I wanted to show you is right here. This is a still, but it's light field imagery. So this camera shot is taking, it captures the image from all points of space and time at the same time. So when you move through this in VR, the light travels with you. So in most pictures, you can't do that. So if there's a reflection, let's see if I can find one with a reflection. So as you can see, the light kind of moves as you look around, like it would in real life. So this photorealism stuff. So now that we've got, you know, volumetric, you know, or you know, volumetric video, light field imagery, we're going to start to see very realistic virtual spaces. So, and here's that volumetric video that I already showed, where it's an actual video. And you can see the water moving. It obviously requires a lot of hard drive space, a lot of processing, but that's getting cheaper and cheaper. So the film industry will probably get to this point where eventually we'll be able to go to a movie and really almost walk around the movie, and we'll be able to like maybe go into different stories within that movie. Instead of watching it from one perspective, we might be able to, look in a corner of a house and then go into a little mouse hole, and the next thing you know, we're in a different part where maybe from, the story is from the mouse perspective now. But also with volumetric video, when the cameras get more affordable, right now they're not, but they will, I'll be able to record a video of, let's say, my mom's 70th birthday party and capture it in volumetric video, and then watch it in 25 years on a headset or whatever, and watch it in 25 years, and it'll be like I'm actually still in that space, like it is here. So, it's great looking through photographs. I still do it. I love it. But being able to, experience something that you shot in volumetric video is going to be intense. So this is just something that is an interesting concept, and this was in Wired magazine, but they call it the mirror world. And the fact that we're digitizing so much, we're 3D scanning so much, we're doing, photorealism captures of Versailles, we're doing volumetric video. So this whole concept of the mirror world is basically, if I'm looking at my coffee cup and I have my XR glasses on, and you're sitting next to me with your XR glasses on, I can pick up my coffee cup and it's physically in my hand, but then I can take the digital ghost of it, the digital clone of it, and take it off the cup, set it down, and we can kind of redesign it, right? That's the mirror world concept. I highly recommend, and for some reason the source is missing, I will put that back in there. Kind of mind-blowing. And if you've ever looked at thought about this, we're in a simulation. There's a lot of people that think we're actually in a simulation, that the whole universe is a simulation. That's an interesting thing to think about, because now with computers getting more and more powerful, maybe we are in a simulation. But anyway, check out this mirror world thing. It's pretty cool. And I always think that this was pretty cool that, Charlie Crist uses Twitter, and so I kept, replying to him and saying, hey, why don't you come into the lab? I mean, he's got an office not too far from, like a few steps away from the innovation lab, and he never replied. But finally he replied, and he came in with his staff, and it was great because he got to try VR and kind of see some of the stuff that's emerging now. I don't think he's never done VR before, and he's doing the Pearl Harbor thing here, and it was kind of eye-opening for him. So really neat. So there's my contact. One thing I wanted to try, if there's not any questions, I was going to try an experiment. So I'll explain what I'm doing, but if please throw me some questions. Keep in touch. For some reason, this is not all here either, this slide. I'm using Google Slides now, so not all my stuff transferred over. So I'm going to minimize this for a second. So what my plan is, are there any questions first off? Let me see if I can open up the chat thing here.
There's none right now.
Okay, cool. So a couple quick things. So can you guys still see my desktop?
Yep.
By the way, I cleaned it up. It looks really good, doesn't it? A couple minutes ago.
Great.
All my stuff is in this folder, by the way. But anyway, so here's the virtual desktop streamer. So what this does is this connects my computer to my virtual reality headset. So let me step up for a second. Let me find my video. Bear with me a quick second. Where did my video go? Okay, there I am. All right, so I don't know if you're gonna be able to see. Let me turn my background off, sorry. Hang on. Virtual background off. Okay, so this is my Quest, right? So I've got a few other of these headsets. I've got 2 Quests and a Magic Leap and a HoloLens and some other little things. But so what I'm going to do is put this on my head in a second. All right, so let me turn my video off. Okay, so this desktop streamer, that's going to connect from my computer to my headset. And then when I'm on my headset, I'm going to open up virtual desktop, which is then going to connect, hopefully, in theory. We tested this a while back, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up Steam VR, which is this program here, which it's searching for everything. And so I'm going to do that in a second. And then Spaces, I'm going to open up. Now, Spaces is that program I mentioned that will, let's see, let me go into VR and present to you you'll be in Zoom and I'm going to be in VR. So Sketchfab, by the way, I just included my Sketchfab, so I can go in here, and if I have my own 3D models and stuff, I can add all that. So I'm going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop off for a second. I'm going to try to get in and see if I can do this VR thing real quick. You should be able to hear and see. Well, hang on. Let me do this. So if it doesn't work, if I'm not back in like a minute or so, or if it doesn't work within like a minute, I will come back. So I won't be lost in VR space. So let me try this. I'll be right back. So actually wait, I'll show you this real quick too. So here's the Zoom deal. So right now I'm going to select my, which one was it? I think it's this one. I'm going to change that. I'll do the video first. So my video is going to be Unity Cam, so I had to install this. And I'll start my video. Okay, so in a second, you should see me in VR, I think. You can kind of see it.
We can see the back of your head in VR.
Okay, cool. And then I'm going to hopefully get into the right microphone. Let's try this one. I think this is the one I used before. Okay, bear with me. Let's see if this is going to work. Let's see. So are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, we can see you moving around.
Oh, wow, I'm impressed that it actually worked. Okay, so what I'm doing real quick, so now I'm looking at, you can see just me right now, right? So if I move this over, you can see a screen, right? This is Spaces. So that's actually that's my monitor, right? So I'm connected to, from my VR headset to my monitor. Over here, I can have a second desktop, right? So right here, I have a whiteboard behind me. So if I wanted to, I can pick up a pen, right? And I can draw on it, right? I don't know if you can see that or not, but I just drew on the whiteboard. So what's cool about this though is I can then share my screen. I'm not going to do it now, but I can share my screen. I can show videos. I can actually pick up this 3D object. Looks weird in my hand right now, but I have a 3D object here. I can just throw and it falls. I can then do this real quick. I can go into, I don't know if you're able to see that. Now I can go into, if I had my Sketchfab set up, I can go in and bring in my own objects. I can also go down here, try this real quick. I'm going to change my room. So if it goes black for a second, it'll come right back. So just let's try that Sketchfab. I'm going to change it to a street. So now
I'm in, are you guys able to see the street I'm in? Let's see. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can still hear you.
Okay, so now so you're seeing me on camera, but if I move this around, you can see I'm actually on a street now. I'm in a street. So I can create any kind of space, right? And kind of discuss what it is on the street, or I can create anything, any environment, and then we can discuss it in here. It's really kind of cool. I can also, now there's also, like I mentioned, roomy and spatial, where we can actually all meet in 3D space and hang out and communicate. And by the way, it's very engaging, especially if we're working on some kind of 3D content, or if we want to all travel to the streets of Paris and talk about a certain street or sculpture or whatever it is, we can do that. If we're like an anatomy and physiology class, we can all bring in a heart, and I'm holding a fake heart up here right now, but I can make it bigger, make it smaller, we can take it apart, dissect it. So we're learning in 3 dimensions. So those reports that I showed you earlier are very useful. By the way, when you're in other VR and XR spaces, the mouth and eye contact actually works better than this does. So I don't think my mouth is moving, but anyway. And then I've got other ways to kind of show you context. So right now I'm holding a little TV, right? Very light. Anyway, so there's a lot of possibilities here. Now, of course, it's odd for me to be in VR and interacting with all this 3D stuff and like seeing everything in 3 dimensions when you're just in 2D on a screen, and that's fine. It's just different, different way to communicate. So I'm glad this part worked. What I'm going to try real quick is I'm going to try to take the VR camera off, and then hop back into the regular thing and see if that's going to work. So bear with me for one quick sec.
Okay, I am back in the real world. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Oh, it's funny. I'm actually still hearing you in my virtual reality headset. Let me fix that. There we go. How's that?
Good.
Okay, good. Cool. So it actually worked. I'm surprised. If let's close this out, because I'm afraid it's going to break everything. Yeah. So this is still in beta too, spaces, and that's something I love to do, is to test things in beta. So if you ever want to do that kind of thing, let me know.
Chad, you mentioned earlier that if anyone wanted to join you later in a space,
Yep.
that you would have the links for that. How would they do that?
The best way is to just, here, let me get this thing out of the way, is to email me, and we can schedule something. Yeah, I'm always willing to meet in there. It's actually, you'll be amazed at how engaging it is. So yeah, just email me, and we'll continue the conversation. We'll set something up, and we'll explore that space too.
So it looks like we're at 12:10. So just to be mindful of everyone's time, I do see a few folks have already jumped off. Does anyone have any questions for Chad? If not, please get in contact with him if you're interested in obtaining the links for future endeavors. And we appreciate you all being here today, and thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you.
And Chad's email is in the chat. So if you do want to connect with him to meet in a virtual space or to learn more about the extended realities, you can email him at that email address.
Oh, thanks, William. Yeah, it's fun stuff. Did you guys record this? I'm curious.
I
Yes.
did record it, yes.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm curious, do you guys, I've tried using Zoom transcriptions before, and it took like almost a week, literally a week for it to do it. Do you guys, what do you guys do? Do you actually do transcriptions, or do you just kind of let it go?
Hey, Chad, did you see the email from Matthew?
I did. He's talking about Ensemble.
Yeah.
So he wants us to, yeah, I guess we'll have to take everything off of YouTube, I guess, and then bring it there.
That's what it sounds like. And there was some mention about the program Amar or something too. I'm not